Okay. Hi, I'm Ingmar, representing the Supreme Experience. Um, and I'm reading from Plotinus. This is the Loeb edition, Loeb Classical Library, put out by Harvard. From Ennead 1.1, which is not in chronological order. It is an Ennead that is claimed to have been taken from the later part of Plotinus's life. And I'm reading from a section that was read last night by me and a couple of philosophers who I won't name. We had a very nice reading, I thought. Maybe one of them was a little grumpy, but the other one was perfectly fine. And we're not starting from the beginning, but from the later section 8. And that's okay, because this is representative of the Supreme Experience and it should come out of the language. It's a bit of a technical language. There's parts that are quoted out of Plato's Timaeus. I might be able to provide some commentary um, in order to help to understand those parts a little bit better. Um, but this is Plotinus, a 3rd century Neoplatonist, that is 3rd century AD, and this is the guy that, according to the English Platonist Thomas Taylor, um, rediscovered what had been undiscovered for about 800 years after Plato. Like, the knowledge of this way of understanding Platonism had gone out of the understanding of the Greek mind. The philosophers that came after Plato, starting with Aristotle, are considered by the English Platonist Thomas Taylor to be lesser intellects, but Plotinus really got it. And Plotinus left us a lot of philosophy. And he was educated by the priests of Alexandria and started his own school in Rome. Um, and there's a lot more that can be said about Plotinus and his disciples, but he began the Neoplatonic movement in philosophy, and that's very interesting, including such people as Timaeus and Proclus, who was the head of the academy later, about 200 years after Plotinus, the head of Plato's academy in Greece, that is, before it was shut down by the Christian emperor Justinian in 529. So he says, but how are we related to the intellect? This is the nous, basic word for mind in Greek. How are we related to the intellect? I mean by intellect, not that state of the soul, which is one of the things which derive from intellect, but intellect itself. You see this difference. Not intellect as it appears in us, but intellect itself. We possess this too as something that transcends us. We have it either as common to all or particular to ourselves, or both common and particular. Common because it is without parts and one and everywhere the same. Particular to ourselves because each has the whole of it in the primary part of his soul. Now, last night I saw and got agreement from Jeff that when he's describing these options, so what are the options? Common to all, particular to ourselves, or both common and particular. And now, in his description of these, common because it is without parts, I said enlightenment. It's without parts, enlightenment. And one, enlightenment, and everywhere the same, enlightenment. If you have enlightenment experiences, what I've called the supreme experience, you'll see that these types of descriptions without parts, it's a partless experience, like the experience of the everyday world, right? This has many parts, this book, I can tear it in half and it's got parts. This mouse has got removable parts, right? It's got the battery inside, etc. But this experience, my experience of this mouse is that it's got parts, it's partable. But the experience of, you know, beginning, middle, and end of this book, and then all the parts in between. But the experience of enlightenment is without parts. So when we speak about intellect, that's what we're talking about, is what the Buddhists call enlightenment. They call it bodhi, or mind, the awakened mind. So when we're speaking about common to all, it's because it's without parts and one and everywhere the same. Particular everywhere the same. It's like emptiness in the Buddhist tradition, the Zen tradition, the tradition of the Maha